Well, welcome everybody. It's wonderful to have the county commission here today. Because we're both having official meetings, we got everybody, right? Yep. Because we're both having official meetings, I'll go ahead and start with our roll call because we do it different ways, but I'll call this meeting to order for the city council. And clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Corliss.
Here.
Halliburton.
Here.
Morales.
Here.
Nash.
Here.
Stead.
Here.
Willits.
Here.
All present.
Commissioner.
Okay, today's the third day of February. The time is 3:30. The Ada County Commission is holding a joint meeting with the Boise City Council. All three commissioners are present. Are there any changes to the agenda? Don't see any. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. All right, we are started. I just want to say welcome to Boise City Hall. It's great to have the three of you and your team here today. This meeting is an opportunity to share with the city council a report from the county. Steve, you're speaking today, right? Richard Beck, wonderful report and explanation of the requests related to impact fees. And the chairman and I have had some conversations over the past 6-9 months, and this is a chance for the county to share with the city council what they'd like us to consider. And then what I would ask is that at the end of this, you, if you so choose, direct our staff to then kind of work through department by department the needs we might have, so we can come back together in a work session with city council to keep moving forward. And with that, Mr. Chair.
All right. Well, Richard has a presentation for you because it's actually fairly simple to adopt these impact fees, but the law requires that we adopt them for our unincorporated areas, which we have done, and then we're working with each of the 6 cities. 2 have already fully are through the process, Eagle and Star, and the others have already adopted the impact fees, and they're working on the ordinances and the interlocal agreement. And so, Richard, he can give you the scoop on it. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. For those, I haven't had a chance to meet all of you, but Richard Beck, I'm the director of the county's Development Services Department, and very much so appreciate the time on the agenda tonight to talk about development impact fees related to some of the services that the county is required to provide to our citizens. We've got just a brief presentation that Steve and I are going to kind of present tonight. I'm going to just touch on some history real quick on where we've been and how we got to this point, and then hand the baton off to Steve. And I would just say at any point, if you have a thought, a question, or anything, feel free to interrupt. I think Steve and I know just enough to get ourselves into trouble, but happy to try to respond to any questions that come to mind. But hopefully we can read this text. But for us, our pursuit of development impact fees started back in 2019. In 2019, we were approached by 4 of the fire districts to adopt their CIPs and impact fees. We walked them through the process, got their impact fees incorporated into our code, and started collecting for those districts outside of city limits. We had, I think, a 5th district come to us as well. And also that same year, if you recall, a lot of the local jurisdictions got together to hold discussions about the impacts of growth. And one of the topics, or one of the areas of focus, was the fiscal impacts that growth has on the services that we all provide. So in early 2020, as staff, we prepared kind of a feasibility analysis to look at impact fees, presented that to the commissioners. They gave us the go-ahead to contract with Galena Consulting, and Westcott helped us develop our first CIPs and impact fees. And then essentially from 2021 up to early 2023, we started to work with the 6 cities, with Boise and the other 6 cities, other 5 cities, and started to talk about next steps, how we can adopt these fees. Early 2023, we did have a request to update the CIPs, so we again contracted with Tischler Bice to go through the update process. They completed that in 2024, and so now we're back to the step of working with partner agencies to pursue next steps. So Tischler Bice, I guess, as we know, core purpose development impact fees is to ensure new growth pays its fair share. And we want to make sure that existing levels of service are maintained and existing taxpayers aren't left covering costs associated with new growth. So Tischler Bice, they just walk through the state code requirements. They established an existing service level, looking at existing facilities and the populations and activities that they serve. Then they use Compass data to project population and employment forecasts, identifying anticipated housing units and non-residential development over the next decade, and then did their best to determine what the capital needs would need, what capital needs would need to be brought online to service the new dwelling units and non-residential uses. So for EMS, they looked at potential need for additional stations, vehicles, equipment, land, the corner. They primarily looked at setting up new space to serve the new growth. And then obviously with the jail, it's primarily focusing on additional housing capacity with beds. And then finally, they spread those costs across the anticipated growth and established a per dwelling unit cost, and for non-residential use, a cost per 1,000 square feet. So based on those capital investment programs, these are the proposed fees. They're separated primarily in two residential types based on dwelling units and 4 non-residential types, again separated out by per that 1,000 square feet. So for Boise City, if the city was to adopt all 3 of the proposed impact fees, that would call for a $750 impact fee per single family dwelling unit as an example. Or if just the paramedics in jail were adopted, that would be a $691 impact fee. And so that's the information that I had prepared to share. I don't know if there's any initial questions before I hand it off to Steve.
Madam Mayor and Mr. Chair, I have a question. So it looks like some of it is based on the per unit. And you said per single family unit. Is that going to be the same price for multifamily unit? It would be per unit in the development, that 700. And then also my other question was regarding like ADUs, accessory dwelling units. Does that also count as a unit? Would that see the same impact fee, or are we looking at the primary residence?
Yeah, Madam Mayor and Mr. Chairman and Council Member, I believe your first question, I think your understanding is correct. Yeah, it's for multifamily, it's per unit in the project. And then I would have to check and see if I can remember on the ADUs, if it's still applicable. I would imagine it is, but it's something that we can dig through and see.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Chair. I'm actually going to see if you can maybe go back a little bit further. I'm trying to understand a little bit of why haven't these been collected in the past, what the eligibility for the county to do this on its own is rather than doing it through the cities. If other counties across Idaho, are doing this as well. So can you go a little bit further back and talk a little bit why you're coming to us with this approach rather than necessarily doing it on your own, or your capability of your ability to do that?
Yeah, Madam Mayor and Mr. Chairman and Council Member Halliburton. Yeah, so for development impact fees, at least for our services, they're countywide. To be successful and to be fairly applied to all the residents, they would have to be adopted by all 6 cities as well as the county. So we don't really have the ability to, I guess, go on our own. We did adopt sheriff service impact fees because they only apply in the unincorporated area, so that makes sense. But that's why we're coming to all 6 cities for success. So we don't really have that opportunity on our own.
Yeah, so just kind of following up there. So I guess what I'm understanding is because these these areas are annexed into the cities, they're incorporated into the cities, you don't necessarily have that taxing authority, but you still do in some circumstances, right? Like when it comes to like pest control or mosquito abatement, aren't there some where you still are able to provide some taxes on top of places that are already incorporated into the city?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner or Council Member Halliburton. Yeah, the taxing ability would remain unchanged. We'd still retain the ability to collect taxes. The eye-opening thing for me was with those growth conversations that I mentioned, one tangible outcome was the development of Compass's fiscal impact analysis tool. And even with that taxing ability, the thing that stood out to me when I reviewed that is even with a development that was approved in one of the 6 cities, typically the first year there would be a negative impact to both city and county services. But the trend long term, even after 10 years, the impact to the city may have turned positive as new taxes came on board. But the long term, it was not the same for the county. Usually it was negative 10 years out. So I guess the taxing side wasn't able to catch up, to keep up.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. There's something that feels just a little bit of kind of clunky though, in the process of, okay, we know that we need this. We know that this impacts everybody who lives in the city. And that, whether it's EMS or whether it's our, our jail services, like there's things that people are using. So it makes sense to me why we would need impact fees to be able to grow and build some of these. It seems a little clunky to me that the process is the money goes to the city and then the city gets it back to the county to kind of go here. And that if there isn't a process where there's an ability to go straight to the county rather than kind of funneling through the cities for it. And maybe there's not an answer to that, but I think that that's kind of where my mind is. It seems like this process just is a little bit clunky, and I don't know if there's other options or if this is really the only option to kind of figure that out.
Yeah, and I guess, Madam Mayor, Mr. Chairman, if I could respond, I guess, yeah, we're working with what our state legislators has given us, the process that's in state code, and the Impact Fee Development Act. So it is, I would agree, it's a challenge.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Chair. I think some of the other methods you were talking about are the taxing districts that we have. So our EMS and our weed, pest, and mosquito, they're separate taxing districts that had to be created by the voters when those were originally proposed. But I don't think there's anything in state code that would address like what we're trying to accomplish with the impact fees. So we're really at the mercy of state code here.
Well, I can add a little bit to that, and that is the fees are actually collected with an interlocal agreement. Whatever that agreement says is how the fees are actually collected. 2 cities, Eagle and Garden City, that have not Garden City, Eagle and Star, that have set it up. They're going to collect the fees upon the building permit issuance. Garden City wants us to collect the fees, so they send their builder to us. We sign a thing, say, okay, they paid the fees, and then they take it back, and then they give the building permit. So it's done by, depends on how the city wants to do it. It's the interlocal agreements. That's all.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Chairman, I have a context question in terms of the county collecting impact fees. Was this a new delineation that you had to get from the state legislature, or had it always existed and you had never exercised on it?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Mr. Chairman, and council member, it isn't something that we had to go and get the state code change. It was in code, just something that we'd never pursued.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's in code, and the county has no authority to issue an ordinance countywide for these kind of things.
Mr. Chair, Mayor, Councilmember Willits, just to put a little finer point on it. So this has existed for quite some time, but it's cumbersome. And so because our ordinances don't apply inside city limits, every city has to do basically just like you adopted your own impact fees. And again, super clunky, and it also requires some level of trust because you also have staff that does and consultants that do your capital improvement plans, and you know them and you know how they do their stuff and you trust your people. And in this case, you're trusting our consultants and our staff who did all this capital improvement planning, and you have to adopt it into your own comp plan and trust that that's accurate. And so we do whatever we can as the county to make you feel comfortable. I think we used the same consultant. It was Ann Westcott at the time. Now it's Tischler Bice. So they do great work, but it is this weird kind of leap of faith, and every city has to do it on their own and adopt it as their own. So I think that's the reason more counties don't do it. And to your question, Councilmember Halliburton, there aren't counties right now in Idaho that I'm aware of that do it. There's some that are poking around and looking at it, but it's a cumbersome process.
So just 2 follow-up questions. Did you say so Ada County will be the only county that does this when all the cities work through?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, it's my understanding. Yeah, have not found another planning director that has gone through this process.
Interesting. Okay. And then can you walk the council through the request that Meridian made regarding the coroner impact fees?
Yes,
Thanks.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Chairman. So our analysis, both from a legal perspective and from our consultant, says that coroner is included in kind of that law enforcement definition. The coroner is uniquely authorized by statute to take over for the sheriff. In fact, I think the coroner can arrest the sheriff. But they serve a law enforcement purpose. They do investigations, death investigations. They can issue warrants, compel people to come and testify. And again, they're part of that apparatus that prosecutes and serve as witnesses and provide, again, death investigations in those kind of capital murder type cases. And so everybody on our side believes that that is law enforcement. And though the word coroner doesn't appear in the statute, it's clear that they are law enforcement. Meridian's, that's a bridge too far for Meridian, and I appreciate that. I understand that they've got their own lawyers and legal opinions. So we are currently working with our lobbyists to have that inserted into the code. The word coroner, it was the easiest drafting exercise I've ever done. I don't know, because of all the conformity stuff that's happening over there, whether we'll be able to get the attention of anyone to do it. But I spoke with John Sheldon today, who's feverishly looking to get that done, because we want to allay Meridian's fears, though the coroner's impact fee is, $59 a rooftop. It's important for growth.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate that you're going to get that fixed. Because in the same way that Meridian's attorneys have a position, Ada County's attorneys have a position in our city will be taking a look too. So just want the council to be aware of everything that's happening around that. And conformity is interesting to me, because I've been thinking about that in terms of, especially after the council president asked the question about where ADUs fall into this. And that might be one of the things that we want our planning development services and other departments to look at is a conformity element, really. If we have areas where we have waived fees or have reduced fees for different types of developments, is there a need to have conformity there in collecting your fees? And appreciate that the commission has set aside money the last couple of years for affordable housing to offer conformity around our waiver of fees when it comes to affordability. But there might be more we want to look at there too. I'm not sure. I'm going to look to staff to look at that. Ooh.
I think that's because I turned.
Oh, gotcha.
Madam
I'm done.
Mayor, Mr. Chair, I appreciate that prompt, because I think I'm curious about that, something like where we do adjust fees or in ADUs, or even, I think part of my thought process, and would love to better understand the impact from our staff when we can dig into things a little bit, but is, from my perspective, the impact on things like EMS and coroners and jail there's a greater impact in a 4-bedroom house than there is to a studio in a multifamily complex. So it's that's a consideration of mine, I guess, is the differing impact. And then some questions for you guys. What happens if growth does not hit the projections that Compass is expecting? How does that look in 10 years or more?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, and Mr. Chairman, and council member, the state code does and will require us to update our capital investment program or plans every 5 years. So we would be able to make those course corrections when the new data comes out.
Madam Mayor, sorry, this is kind of into the weeds, but then would there be, I guess, how is that then reported to the cities? How are we tracking the work that you guys are doing? And one more question while I'm getting them out. What are you looking for a uniform answer across all cities? So if Meridian's pulling out of the corners thing, does that impact what we're considering? Or are you looking for whatever the cities will adopt?
So, Ms. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, Councilmember Stead, great questions. So in the statutes, we're required to, account for everything, right? And so who paid, how much they paid, and then keep a running tally of the money that we have in that fund. And then what we're going to spend that on, which again is driven by the capital improvement plan. And you all will be given, assuming we get to a situation where we've got an interlocal agreement, we share that on an annual basis with you. It's certainly there and available to the staff and to the city council and mayor if you want to see it more regularly. Our auditor staff will be keeping that, but you'll be able to see exactly what we're doing with those funds, what they're going to be spent on. I just lost your last question.
Uniformity across it.
Yes, ideally we would. We'd like to, if nothing else, we'd like to keep talking, right? We're in a spot with Meridian where we really like them to just go ahead and adopt the other two. And then we promise to go to the legislature, and it might take us a couple of sessions, but we'd like them to catch up. A uniform system well, the capital improvement plans were done on the idea that it's going to be countywide. And so there's a big hole in it and it really does impact that significantly. I'm not sure the council or the county commissioners would abandon it, but I think they'd keep talking with you to convince you or do what they needed to do to get kind of a uniform system. We think that's the most equitable. And the questions I've gotten from council members and mayors as I kind of wander around, equity to them is important. And so I think they think it's better if everybody's doing the same thing. You're welcome.
Just as an amplification of that, those monies that are collected go into a fund and can only be spent for there. I mean, they are dedicated for that purpose, and that's the only place we can spend it. So that's the accountability that you're talking about as well. No matter what or who participates, which we, like Steve said, we anticipate everybody participating, but the fund will only be expended for the purpose that was stated. We're required under the law to keep those funds separate and use them only for those purposes.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Chair, a couple of quick things and two questions. In regards to conformity, I also would like us to make sure we're considering the tiny homes on wheels, which we most recently approved, and whether or not this would be applicable or if we're considering that a household as well. The other question I have is
just before you answer that question, just so council knows what I'm trying to keep track, but we've also got staff here too, so that at the end of this, if you direct staff to look into this further, all of these pieces that you've mentioned that matter will come up, and they'll also make sure there aren't other areas of conformity and operations that just ought to be addressed too.
Right. In regards to the jail, I know we're so close on passing that last bond. In regards to that, I know there's a funding shortfall coming from the state and what they're paying to the county to keep their people there. I believe they're paying $45, and I think the cost is around $90 with a $2.2 million shortfall a year. Is that currently being addressed with the state?
Well, your numbers are just a little off.
When you talking to Mike, please.
Yeah, your numbers are just a little off because our actual cost, according to the Sheriff's Association, is $147 per inmate. And the state is reimbursing us right now. The first 7 days is $55. Beyond 7 days, it's $75. Now, there's a bill introduced to consolidate that and make it $80, but that's still way below the actual cost that we incur or that the taxpayers incur. And it's having consequences. We just got an email today from a woman whose husband is in jail, and he has to sleep on the floor in the jail because we don't have a bed for him.
Yeah, I understand that. And so I think when we're looking at the cities and putting these taxes on the household is, I guess, from an equitable standpoint is how do we get the state to be that equitable partner to pay their fair share?
Well, that is the conundrum. If you have the answer to that, we'd like to know.
Mr.
Well,
Chair.
and since we do like to talk about the prison being full because of the state population, I think I want to be clear, the impact fees, as you well know, of course, but just for the record, they're capital. They cover the bricks.
Yeah.
We still need the state to cover the beds for the people that they're sending to the prison every day.
Oh, and it's interesting. Their cost, by the way, for IDOC is $98.50. That's what it costs them. They still only paying us 75.
Interesting.
No.
Mr. Chair, Madam Mayor, just a
I'm sorry, just a second. Did you have any follow-up or another question?
I do have a question, but it's a different topic, so.
I'll follow up on yours. We did have a meeting with the state director of prisons because this has been an issue that we've been pushing for a while. We want the state to get their inmates out of our jail, but they have nowhere to put them. So we did press the state on that, and they did tell us that they are planning to build a new facility for women, which partial alleviation of the problem. I suggested the state maybe should look at how many people we're actually putting in prison and length of sentences and these types of things. That's always harder for the legislature to decriminalize than increase penalties. But the state is very well aware that we have a situation here.
Great. The other question is regards to the coroner's office and understanding that the county contracts with several different counties for services, as makes sense. Are those fees similar to what's being requested, or how does that connect with what's being asked of the cities?
Mr. Chairman, Madam Mayor.
Can answer that. We do collect when another county asks for an autopsy, 33 other counties do their autopsies in Ada County, and there is a fee that's collected and they cover the cost. The only thing that's being asked for here is $51 or in that range. And that's going to pay for debt. That's all it does.
Paying for debt on the current building.
Madam Mayor, just as an amplification of that, as you said, oh, I'm sorry, did you want to talk?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm just planning ahead.
Oh, okay, all right. As the mayor indicated, this is not for ongoing operations anyway. We're collecting, and that's why it's an impact fee on new development, because it's to pay for the facilities. And as the chairman said, we have a new facility that we are paying off the debt on, so that's where that would go.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Chair, I guess just maybe a couple comments and then some direction that would help for me for staff to look into. One, again, appreciate the goals and the intention here. Don't disagree with that whatsoever. I have confidence that our staff can take a look through some of the numbers, make sure that the things make sense better than I can. I think my comments have a little bit more to do with just sort of the process in general. I think it's great that we've got an attempt here to make sure that growth pays for growth. I think that everybody wants that in cities and counties across the state. My guess is that if we're the first ones that are doing this, that there's other counties who probably have some needs and are thinking about some things in some similar ways, probably don't have the same resources that we have in some of the bigger cities here in the Valley. And so some of the fixes that we're exploring may be too complicated and cumbersome for some of them to navigate. And so part of me just wonders if there's an opportunity for a better fix at the state level that makes the process a little bit easier. And that's, again, a big thing to ask, but I think that that's something that should be looked at. Is there something that the state can make it easier to do so there isn't this cumbersome process to work through the cities, and what opportunities are there? And I guess the other comment I would have for staff as far as when we're looking into this goes, have just a little bit of tension as far as the transparency goes between an impact fee coming to the city of Boise and then funds being transferred over to the county, and not necessarily just from a trust issue, but where are the funds going to go? And so Commissioner Beck, when you brought up that there's maybe another city who the funds are going directly to the county and then they're coming back and getting the permit from somewhere else, like that's a process that
It's an interlocal agreement
Yep.
between the county and the city, and that's where that's all ironed out, how that can be done. And it can be done one of two ways. It can be done, the city collect the fee on the issuance of a building permit and then transfer it to the county, or you can ask the county to go, or the builder to go to the county and pay the impact fee and bring it back and say it's paid.
Yep. And I guess I would just, without looking into it too deeply, feeling a little bit more comfortable for the second option there, just because I think there's greater transparency to where those funds are actually going. Maybe a little bit of an extra bit of work for the builder who's now having to go to a couple of different places. But as we're looking into this, I guess I would ask our staffs to come back and kind of report on both options on what would be better, because I do see just a little bit of a challenge of the transparency of the builder, who they're paying the funds to. And to me, if it's going directly to the place this is kind of, one step as far as transferring funds goes that make a little sense. So I appreciate that there's two different methods. In my mind, the second one makes a little bit more sense. But again, I would take some input from our staff on how we think that would make sense.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Chairman, are you done with your presentation?
I have a little bit more.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
That's okay.
I'll
That's
I was
okay.
like,
Most-
wow, that was
That's
a
my
short
question.
presentation for this long-awaited joint meeting.
Do you want to hit?
Okay, I think we've got comments and questions from Councilmember Willetts, Morales. Anash, do you have anything? Nope. Okay, we'll hear the rest of this and then we've got till 4:30 and want to make sure we get the list of things that council wants staff to look at, but all looks good so far.
Okay, Madam Mayor, Mr. Chair.
Oh, great. Okay.
This is a slide that just is, again, clunky. And to your point, Councilmember Halliburton, this is a constitutional issue, right? It's that whole sovereignty thing. And so really to change this and make it less cumbersome, you almost have to change the Constitution, right? So we've kicked that tire a few times and to see if we could do something differently, but this is it, right? You adopt a couple of our CIPs into your comprehensive plan. You got to go through planning and zoning and then council. You approve ordinances. The reason you need two is because our EMS is a separate taxing district and the board wears a different hat for that group. So two is appropriate. Same thing with the intergovernmental agreements, which we can work to do whatever. I will tell you, we worked with the Building Contractors Association through this process. They're very familiar and they've been comfortable. Some of our impact fee people are on your impact fee advisory. So they're comfortable with the idea of the county collecting impact fees, and then adopt a new fee in the process you guys follow normally. And Rob Lockwood and your team, they're ninjas at this stuff. So they absolutely can handle it.
I've got one question.
Yes.
The Garden City example was interesting to me, especially given Councilmember Halliburton, I see Morales nodding too. Is this process the same for it all? The city still adopts your CIPs. We still hold a fee hearing, even though the county collects directly in that instance.
Madam Mayor, yes. So
Okay.
we are doing it kind of as a service for you. We'll do the factoring and figuring and collect it and then send them back with a receipt that shows they paid, and then you can issue the building permit. It avoids you all having to collect Eric Bill Moria from having to collect fees and hold on to them and remit them and keep track of records. And
Right.
those
I think
sorts of things.
it's like more great, like it's cleaner
Yes.
way to do it. Okay, but it's still this process is still the same for Garden City.
Yes, Mayor.
Right.
In terms of the kind of looking at conformity issues, I know in I think it was 2022, I was talking, we exchanged a letter, and then Maureen Brewer and I, in her former life, we were having conversations about an affordable housing kind of carve out. And that was a great place to start. Good conversation. In fact, I think we batted around language. And so that's been kind of parked. Certainly the board was willing to look at other issues that you have that are near and dear to your heart. We have set that $300,000 aside since FY 23. And the basis for setting that aside is we have to keep the fund whole, right? So when we waive it for a developer, and we were working with Maureen, so when they qualified for your affordable housing break of one flavor or another, that would trigger ours. But we have to keep the fund whole, right? So the county would put the money in that we were waiving, so that the fund remains whole and viable, so that our program is solvent. So if you want to go to the last one. Again, here's where we stand. City of Eagle is done and collecting. We should have our first impact fee payment from them any day now. Star is just going through that fee resolution process. So that's their final step, and then they'll start collecting. Meridian's parked their CIPs once City Council or the Planning and Zoning and City Council approved that. They're parked. They really want to be last. And so let's see. CUNA, we've got a CIP hearing. This slide has been updated. Currently it's set for March 3rd. So we'll go out to their city council and they'll do their CIPs. So they have a bit of way to go, but the mayor has said he'll make it happen. So we're optimistic. And then we were at Garden City last week. They adopted, they've kind of gotten down the road where they've got an ordinance. They did their first reading and public hearing on that ordinance, and then they have paused. Understand that the chairman met with the mayor yesterday, and that's gonna go through the second and third reading process. Then it's just intergovernmental agreements. So we could really, really use your help, and we are here, as is our consultant Tischler Weiss, to answer any questions, work with your staff, whatever you need to get you kind of headed down this road. So thank you.
Thanks so much. This has been very interesting and helpful. I'm gonna ask you a tough question, which is, what are the pain points that other cities have brought up to you? Like, what haven't we asked you that we should have?
Mr. Chair, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Willetts, the corner thing has been the toughest. The second toughest has been, wait, the process again? What is that? Because it's just cumbersome. Meridian had some real concerns about how we developed our CIPs, because they do theirs in-house and they do it differently. And so we met with them on a number of occasions. They got comfortable with how the analysis our consultant did, so they agreed to move forward. But we know it's just different because they do things differently. They still do impact fees, but they do things differently. And let's see, any other tough ones? Garden City was really easy because the developer doesn't have to come very far, right? That's not as appealing to the Stars and Eagles of the world, but I think that's it.
Madam Mayor, Mr.
Oh,
Chair.
no, I had another one,
Oh, you did? Okay.
but I didn't know if Chairman Beck wanted to add any color to that.
Well, one of the bigger pain points is it's not something that a city council or a mayor is used to doing, adopting an ordinance into their code that only affects the county.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sort of a pain. They've all had to sort of get used to that and get it into their vernacular, because that's not something you do every day. And
Well,
that's
and
something-
also,
and that's because it's part of the code that requires that.
well, and also I point out on that process, they're asking you all to vote on new fees and increased fees for them, right? And so that, from a city perspective, it's not, I don't feel like it's the county doing us a favor by collecting them like they are for Garden City. We're kind of doing you a favor by taking a tough vote to increase fees. But that's come up. It's the clunkiness of the process and the votes for us to increase the fees that will then be we'll either be collecting or they'll be collecting.
One more question, and I know you don't have this information available at this very minute, but if there's one government building I hear about in the Valley, it's the coroner's office. I hear about how beautiful it is and people wonder why. I hear about how pretty it is and they wonder why. I had someone just ask me about that this Monday, or yesterday, I should say. I'm curious, of these fees, how much is going to pay for the coroner's building? And how much is left for the county to pay, and how much of these fees will go towards that?
Sure. Mr. Chair, Mayor, thank you. Councilmember Willetts, I don't have the exact number. I will tell you all of the fees that are collected will go to upfit areas that are kind of underdeveloped in that corners facility as growth happens, and then some will go to serve the debt on that. All of that will be the stuff inside that building, the equipment, and is expensive, and so it qualifies as things that are eligible for impact fees. It is a beautiful building for sure, but the commissioners now have to pay the debt service on it, and so we kind of are where we are, but I appreciate those comments, and happy to track down any other information that you'd like.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, you are Googled with her for a lot of things, but probably not that right now. So when you can, I'd be very curious. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Chair. Question for you just on that point. So we talk about facilities that are being built or have been built, paying debt service for new growth that could potentially happen in a few years. Can you talk about those facilities? Did we overbuild those for that growth that we're expecting in the years to come? And that's why those impact fees would be helping serve that debt on those facilities?
Mr. Chair, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Morales. Yes, as it relates to the coroner's office, that was built with a long-term view and financed accordingly. It's really the smart thing, right? Don't build it for what you need right now. So there are areas of that building that need to be finished, that I won't say are unoccupied, but are unfinished for their intended use. And there will be additional equipment and supplies that are necessary, that are impact fee eligible in that facility. And debt service is eligible, for impact fees to pay. So that was the decision at the time, the board before this board. And now we're trying to come up with, solutions to help pay, to have growth pay for the areas of that's overbuilt or that was built for the future. In addition, the jail, when we get there, it's certainly a need to expand the jail. And when we get there, some of the equipment and facility will be funded by impact fees. Can't be all of it. This has been in the planning for some time, but we have identified what portions of it can be, and impact fees will be used to pay that debt as well.
Great. I think, thank you. I think in a perfect world, we would be building the infrastructure as things are coming online or ahead of time, right? We hear that a lot with a lot of infrastructure. So just wanted to kind of clarify that. And I think just my comments, I too, I think a couple heartburn topics or points for me were administrative burden and costs on the city to be able to service this. And so I should have done my homework with Garden City. But I think a way that we can help offset that would be much appreciated as we're growing considerably very fast. To be able to take, and I think in that point, one comment I would make is in those scenarios where someone's waiting on a building permit here before they get that slip of paper from you, receipt to bring it back here. However, we can do that as quickly as possible, because that's what we hear consistently from development is that time is money. And that transitions into our cost of housing. I think the other comment I would make is a little bit to my first question, that is where we have gaps in our current infrastructure that we should have paid for better when our homes were grown, or our taxes should have been going towards those gaps. I would hope that as we move to this model and we're putting impact fees on new development to make sure they're paying their fair share, that we're also kind of setting off on the right foot and ensuring that we're closing those gaps too. And we're not just using this as our get out of jail free card because we didn't set the budget appropriately to be able to fund these things, or, we didn't have the impact fees that we needed currently. So I think that I would hope that we're continuing to have those conversations about what the gaps are already and how we can close those.
Madam Mayor, if I could just offer some general comments on this. I recognize the novelty of this, and that might be why this has probably been so slow moving. I think Commissioner Beck mentioned having first introduced this idea back in 2021. And it's taken this long to kind of get off the ground with all these different cities, including us. So I appreciate your perseverance and patience with us as we work through it. My general feeling about this is, I guess I kind of feel more about, feel like more like a citizen and not maybe elected official when I view this, is when people pay their taxes and pay their fees, I don't think they are, well, Ada County does this and the city does that. And we're local government to them. It's people that are in the jail are Boise residents. The people that are in the morgue are we're Boiseans, and same with whatever other needs the county's providing EMS. We did that right along. And I think we're all in a similar boat where we've been kind of dealt a weird hand with how our governments are structured in this state, with having not having uniform ways of applying impact fees, and then having separate taxing districts that the county sits on the boards of. We don't have a very well integrated government in general, and I know that we have difficulty in navigating that, in addition to a lot of the revenue constraints that are outside of our control. So I guess my general attitude would be, I see these as Boise services not county or city services. And so I would hope we just bring that attitude towards it. And then secondly, on that, I, as far as how it's administered, if I were a developer and I were being asked to pay more, that's one thing that one pill I would have to swallow, which seems like we're headed down that road. I think I would not want to add administrative burden to development projects in an effort to seek transparency and where the fee is going, who it's going to. So making me go to 2 different government buildings to pay a fee, I think that would be an added administrative burden. I'd rather go to one place. So that would just be my attitude towards how we implement that. I recognize that there could be an additional internal administrative burden on us to maybe accommodate that, but I think that might be worth it for those developers that are paying those impact fees and want a streamlined process, even if they are going to have to pay more in general. And I would just add my personal comments about the corner building. My son and daughter's pediatrician is just next to that corner building. I'm very proud of that public building. We could have more public buildings that look that nice in the community. And as I left the legislature, one of my last things I worked on was kind of our statewide approach to corner systems, which we do very poorly on statewide. And it's scary. I like lose sleep at night about how much the entire state relies on Ada County for that. So I would say that's a personal priority for me to make sure that is funded appropriately. That's a statewide priority, and I hope the state legislature would see it the same way when they consider that legislation.
All right. Are there any other pieces that haven't been mentioned by council members in terms of directing staff to start pulling together information for work session? Anything, Chairman, that you'd like to wrap up with?
Well, I might add that I've always liked the ADU process, and we haven't.
Wait, did you say you liked the ADU process?
Yeah, I like the ADUs. I've seen some of the ones that's been built in the city of Boise, and I think they're great. I think it adds for housing, and if we can do something with our impact fee, we'll be happy to make that adjustment for you.
Appreciate it. And I should have had you say that into the mic, so it was on the record.
I did.
All right. Commissioners, anything further? Really appreciate the time and presentation. Staff, do you have what you believe that you need to, I'm looking at Hannah, great, and Christine's here too, in terms of deputy chiefs to start pulling this together. Our team will get to work and then schedule some time. Really appreciate your time and your presentation and the work you're doing on this. Thank you all so much.
Madam Mayor, if I make one other comment, is I do really appreciate the novel approach of figuring out how to fund these costs, these real costs that won't be off the back of taxpayers, right? That's going to come through the development. And I also appreciate the fact that we're having these joint meetings together. I think there's other areas within county and city that need some collaboration, and I think this is a great start. So thank you for coming out today.
Thank you. We are not, I guess this is a joint meeting. So I'm going to take a motion to adjourn just to be safe that we've done what we need to do.
Madam Mayor, I move to adjourn. Oh. Second.
Well, no, we have a work session that we'll re-adjourn, I guess. Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, city is adjourned.
We are adjourned.
So much simpler.
We're adjourned.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, that's probably true. So now the city council meeting work session will start at 4:30 in our usual location up on the dais. Okay.